Yeah, I guess so.
Deep breath. Take deep breath. Feel it. Feel it.
Okay. What we all know that everybody here would like to live on the wage that they got when they were 15 years old. It's a great pay, but obviously no, because we're all in college here trying to make a decent salary for our lives. We have all had minimum wage jobs here, and we all know what it's like to be paid the minimum amount and what it's like to live off of that. The minimum wage should be increased to better support minimum wage workers and to support families around the country. This can be shown through the statistics of what workers experience and what could happen after the change. To begin, let's talk about some numbers. The minimum wage so far is very low across the board. In Minnesota, the minimum wage is $7.87. Now, for a family of four, or for a full work week, that pay is $16,500 in a year. Now, that's very low. The poverty line for a family of four, for example, across the country is $23,550. Now, with two children that could be possibly very young, the parents would not be able to afford to bring them to daycare, so then both parents could work. So you only have one working parent in the household. So that means you're only getting $16,000 worth of income in a year for four people. And the poverty line is much higher than that. So one parent would have to stay home. Also, inflation makes this very hard to deal with due to inflation rates. According to the inflationdata.com, the average inflation rate in the United States is 2 to 3%. And that means that prices can double in about 20 years. Now, with rising prices and a stagnant wage, this is not very good for our economy, and it makes people become a lot poorer than they used to be. Now that we have some info, let's talk about some good things that the raise of minimum wage could bring. The biggest positive for minimum wage would be at $11.50, the family of four would be able to be above the poverty line by about $500. And then this would help everyone from students to full-grown adults be able to feed their families and to help pay for things while they're trying to find possibly a better job.
Now that we've talked about what minimum wage is and what solving it would be, we can talk about what it's like to be on a minimum wage. The minimum wage when it was set to be a livable wage, meaning a basic life with few luxuries. However, coming in thousands below the poverty line, like Bennett said, many things are not possible. For a family of even two with a single mom and a child, or a family of four, those can't afford food, housing, or clothing for their children. Put it this way, a 2-bedroom apartment in a not-so-good part of town is not even feasible on that salary. To fix the income deficiency, many earners, being 20 and 30, must compensate in different ways. If you have a family, many are working 60-hour weeks at 2 to 3 jobs, as stated in 2017 by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Many also then have to depend on government services like welfare. This increases government spending and again puts our nation in debt. Raising the minimum wage would lower this government cost and help those in need. Most minimum wage earners are 30 years and younger, with half of them being 25 and younger. However, many come from different backgrounds. Some even do have college degrees. Student debt is not included in the category of basic living necessities. Imagine trying to pay for rent, groceries, and student debt. It can be impossible on just a minimum wage salary. And a large demographic of these are single moms with one or more children. Without the government aid and without working multiple jobs, not having time for their kids, many become homeless, as stated in 2012 by Investopedia. Other statistics can also be surprising as well. Here at home in North Dakota, about 50% of women work in minimum wage jobs. Again, many of them being single mothers. Only one in 8 minimum wage earners come from middle-class families. The rest of them come from below poverty line or lower-class families and households. Now that you understand why the current minimum wage is such an issue, we can talk about what it would look like to have it raised to $10.15. $11.50.
So what would happen if minimum wage was raised? A raise on minimum wage wouldn't so much put big businesses at harm as they would smaller businesses. Tyler O'Neill posted published an article called "What Happens When You Actually Raise Minimum Wage?" To Values and Capitalisms. In this article, he makes the point that if there is an increase in the cost of labor, there will also be an increase in the consumer's money. Big businesses are able to handle this increase in cost of labor, and as inflation increases, there also must be an increase in minimum wage. But why is minimum wage so low, and why should it be increased? Primarily, low-wage workers are under the age of 25, and the federal minimum wage is set at $7.25. This makes it difficult for young adults to pay rent, car insurance, school, or other bills that come with adulthood. Judy Silver published on September 8th of 2014, Who Makes Minimum Wage? And in that article, he makes the point that 50% of minimum wage workers' ages range from 16 to 24. This makes it hard for young adults to turn their jobs into careers, and with a raise in minimum wage, it would make it so then students could focus more on school and less on work. By raising the federal minimum wage to $11.50 to $7.25, it would immediately boost the living standards of those working for the low wage. Workers will be able to be less dependent on government benefits such as welfare, and that will result in less government spending. Housing will become more affordable for those working for low wages, and there will be less stress on paying for everyday essentials such as food, hygiene, or rent. The federal minimum wage is currently lower than it should be and should be raised to support those who work for it. We've discussed what minimum wage is, what the problem is, and what it would look like if it was raised. But a way to try and raise it would be to try and speak to your state representatives and try and make your voice heard.